Hello, good morning. Welcome to the AM News. Residents of Omampe, Boinso, and Enchikwao, three communities along the Elubo-Enchi Road in the Awowen municipality of the Western North region, are accusing a mining firm in the area of destroying the environment. They claim the company has gone contrary to its mining agreements with them. They want government to force the firm to live up to its responsibilities or stop operating. There's more in the following reports by Natalia Kwanzaa.
We had some mining company who told us they were here to do mining. So the community agreed with them, thinking it was mining. But later we discovered these people are doing illegal mining.
Of course, yes, Crestford Ghana Limited. I am the one of the people that brought Crestford to Boinso society. They came and per the agreement that they gave it to us, it means that they are not coming to do illegal galamsey. But behold and hold, the work at Akwo, the work at Amape, what they've done to Akwo and Amape, it is not easy.
John Money, a cocoa farmer, and others show the Joy News team the level of environmental degradation which they say has affected water bodies used for irrigation and daily purposes.
You don't get place to fetch water to drink. And moreover, when they came here, they promised to give us light. They didn't give us. Why they are having a transformer there? They fail all the agreements. Something like if you want to make spraying, you can't get water to make that spraying. I can say a mad side where you can get the water easily.
The residents are demanding an immediate end to their operations. The front of the mining firm is, however, seen divided as two parties, both claiming ownership of the concession, argue over who is to blame for the level of destruction. Both parties agree to illegalities which has affected the communities. First, Nana Kwa, who claims to be a resident director of the firm.
We own this concession, and then some years back we entered into an agreement with a Chinese company called HK's Engine. We abrogated that contract for part fit on their part. We have realized that even after the abrogation, some of their associates keep on mining on our concession. In fact, in a way that is wanton degrading of the environment, and we will be held responsible at the long run.
And here is Henry Okum, who also claimed to be operations director of the firm.
They themselves went and brought two people, those people who are working within the water that the government doesn't want. They are working there.
Several calls from the community members and individuals along the stretch may be yielding some results as the task force from the Small Scale Miners Association heads to the community to ascertain the extent of degradation. The 30-man task force and some association leaders see first-hand open pits and devastated environment en route to the mining sites. They arrest this Chinese national and his Ghanaian accomplice, and the two lead them to the premises of the mining firm. Heated verbal exchanges ensue for hours as private security men of the firm refuse to allow the task force and their leaders entry.
We would like you to instruct your voice. We are not here for violence. We are here for understanding. We want to go inside. We don't want to stand outside. That's why I spoke to him and I said, let's get inside. We can sit down with you while you are doing legalities here.
Razak Alasan, communications director of the association, declares the firm temporarily closed.
So right now, the concession is now into contention. Two people are claiming the same concession. So the Council of Elders will sit down, digest it, and know the person who owns it.
Joy News in Natalia Kwanzaa, Western North Region.
Now, more than 2,000 cases of neglected tropical diseases have been recorded in the Efija Setre East districts of the Ashanti region. District Health Director Dr. Justice Oforiamwa says Buruli ulcer, yaws and lymphatic filariasis continue to burden the healthcare system of the district. You're speaking at an event to mark the World Neglected Tropical Diseases Day.
Is in a Fijasa. Typical amongst them are borreliosis, leprosy, yaws, lymphatic filariasis, and the like. We have a lot of it even with students. Scabies.
Neglected tropical diseases are a group of diseases that occur under tropical and subtropical climate conditions and are closely linked to poverty. They therefore thrive in areas where access to adequate sanitation, clean water and healthcare is limited. It occurs in people living in proximity with animals and effective disease carriers. According to the head of disease control, Ponam Prechum, the district has recorded 1,828 scabies, 13 borreliosis, 4 leprosy, 14 yaws, and 18 elephantiasis.
The NTDs, as I mentioned earlier on, we have yaws, we have lymphatic filariasis, we have borreliosis, we have scabies, including soil-transmitted infections. So we have a lot of cases in the district. As for the scabies, we have over 1,800 and something and still counting. The borreliosis, we have over 20 cases. Leprosy, we have so far identified 4 cases through our case search, and we are still searching for other cases.
Though NTD treatment is free, Mr. Amprechum appealed to benevolent individuals and organizations to come to their aid to reach out to more people.
We're not putting in any case management. We're just searching for the cases. Now that we have identified the cases, this is where we need the support to put them on treatment. And this is where we are calling other people to come to our aid. The NGOs and those who are the stakeholders who are into those NTDs to come to our aid so that we'll put smiles on these people.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Now let's do some Tech Thursday. Waste bins are placed at vantage points in communities to prevent public littering. Though there have been several innovations to waste bins, persons with disability and children sometimes find them inaccessible. In an era where the bins have become integral in the fight against the spread of COVID-19, students of Obuasi Senior High Technical School have designed a touchless bin to tackle the situation. There's more in this report.
We came out with this automatic dustbin, which disables children, especially disabled. When you wash your hands and get close to it, it automatically opens for you to put whatever you want to put in the dustbin. And someone will ask, what are the components or the parts in this dustbin? We use an ultrasonic sensor, which is waterproof, and also the Arduino board, and we have a motor driver here inside.
This can be used in offices, schools, hospitals, banks, etc.
The team hinted of plans to add a solar panel to the bin to make it accessible to people living in communities without electricity. The team of teachers, led by Solomon Nko, says the project needs more funding to begin commercial production.
We've also have in mind to make it in sizes so that people who want to buy them, they can buy. And then also, we are also throwing this to the general public, that anybody who can come to support us, we will try to make them as many as we can to let the general public have them.
Headmaster of the school, Ernest Wiafe, is confident the robotics club will come up with more innovations.
And I hope and believe that that is not going to be the end. We expect quite a lot from this team. As we know, necessity is a matter of invention. So as we progress in life and we face challenges, I believe our team will come up with much more of such inventions and technology, if you like.
Unlike other dustbins, the touchless bin by the Obuasi Sectec Robotic Club is disabled and child-friendly, and you can be assured COVID-19 is well covered. Reporting for Tech Thursday, Anita Sewa Ajugan.
So the team at Obuasi Secondary Technical School. Congratulations to them. Now, as universities have started a new academic year, most students have had to struggle not only with compliance to COVID-19 protocols, but also with online learning. But how feasible has it been for students in terms of Wi-Fi connectivity? Judith Awachitando reports some students are worried about the new mode of learning.
COVID-19 has changed many things, from the wearing of nose masks, no handshakes and hugs, and basically an end to communal living and even the mode of teaching and learning.
It is real, and I can tell them they should observe all the protocols.
Schools in Ghana, just like elsewhere, were used to face-to-face interactions prior to the pandemic. This has changed. Online learning comes with a cost. Costs of data, gadgets, and many others. In the University of Ghana, the school is running a full-blown academic semester online, which gives students no other option than to grapple with access to Wi-Fi connectivity. But is this really the situation?
At first, the online studies was a good thing. But when we get to school, we realize the Wi-Fi is not that much strong. Okay? So you'll be in class and then the network will be up and down.
My affiliation was Legon Hall Annex A, and trust me, I'm seriously facing this Wi-Fi connection.
When we were coming to school, initially management told us that there will be strong Wi-Fi connection on campus. But when we came, there's nothing like that here.
A level 100 student who contacted me that his Wi-Fi connectivity is very poor, and for that matter, he has been buying data for a day 30 Ghana cedis.
Like now, I'm having a class. It's not so well for me. So we are finding it a little bit hard, but we are managing.
Bad internet on campus means extra costs to students.
Financially, you see, the parents in their house, maybe when you tell them, they will not really understand you. So you have to maybe use your own pocket money and those things to do it.
For a week, I can say I spend almost 200 cedis, yes, on data for a week.
I'm a student, and if let's say they give me 100 cedis or 200 cedis per month, and I'm to use 25 Ghana cedis every week for credits, that means I don't even get some for my own upkeep.
The students' leadership is worried. Kwame Ntofianko is president, leading the school student union.
We had a meeting last week, and in our meeting, we made them understand that before students had come to campus, they gave us the assurance that it would make the system perfect. But as it stands now, we've not seen, the Wi-Fi expansion come to fruition as we actually anticipated. But they should try as much as they can to ensure that they improve upon the Wi-Fi connection on campus. That is why we gave them a timeline between last week, Friday, and probably by the close of this week. So let's see how far that would go. But we would make sure that they will do as they have promised us.
In 2020, the school provided some data services for online learning while schools were shut down. As to whether this system will be reinstated remains unknown. Judith Awachitando for Joy News.
Also, a member of Parliament's Appointments Committee and MP for Boko Central, Mahama Yariga, says the NDC caucus on the Appointment Committee will not witch hands any President Akufo-Addo's nominees on February 10 when voting commences. There have been speculations that the NDC caucus wants to pay back some appointees for their actions in the past. Speaking on PM Express, the Boko Central MP told host Aisha Ibrahim that the NDC will only do what is right.
At the end of the day, it will be a question of evidence, because the committee, we sitting there, it is live on national television.
Definitely.
Everybody's watching us. And it is one sure accountability mechanism, the fact that everybody's watching us. We want to strive to do the right thing and be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
And so the key issue is we will ask all the questions that need to be asked. That we will ask.
Okay.
You'll be given the opportunity to answer those questions. The next criteria then is political. Both your work, and then your disposition and how you carry yourself and how members of the committee feel about you and what you say and how you manage their perceptions when you appear.
Ms. Ayarigas, meanwhile, warned members of parliament not to put themselves in any compromising situation by encouraging bribes from the appointees.
Well, I mean, because of the...
Briefly, we're running...
Yes, yeah, I mean, there are all sort of rumors and allegations flying in social media about people allegedly being improperly influenced and etc. But at this stage, I think they are merely allegations. One thing you should know is that...
But sincerely, as a member of parliament,
yeah.
do you think that is something that can happen?
In people's desperation, they may make an effort to reach out, and some of the efforts may be improper. It's up to you as a member of parliament to decide how you react to an improper approach. But I can say with certainty that nobody has improperly approached me. I think that the nominees are entitled to approach you as a member of the panel or of the committee to try and make a case why you should support their nominations. I think this is normal. The same way they can approach the leadership of a caucus to urge them to try and then convince their caucus to support
with money?
Not with money. They can just approaching to make a case. It's called lobbying. You get the point.
Yeah.
They can do that, not with money, not with any inducements. If they attempt to do so with money, that was clearly improper, and I'm sure that the alarm will be raised.
And on that note, we're in the AM News. We've got plenty of news still to come when we dig in the newspapers. We'll also touch base with our news portal, myjoyonline.com. Stay for that.
Well, welcome to that segment of the show where we dig into the papers, and should time allow us, we shall go online as well. Check out what the portals are saying. My name is Benjamin Akako. I do this together with
Mama B. Owusu Aboaji.
AKA.
AKA what?
The Mams. It's another morning. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm great, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm feeling your braids. If it weren't for the lack of hair.
The lack of what? Hair?
Yeah. For me.
Oh.
Yeah, I would
you
have
like hair, huh?
You should see my baby pictures. People see me and they go, "Was that you?" Because I am this chubby, very chubby. You should see my cheeks and my face and my fro. You know.
But today is Thursday, so why didn't you bring us any pictures?
Today actually also happens to be my day.
Oh, is it?
Yes, I'm a Yao.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do we say that? Like happy day or something?
Well, we can always come up with something.
Echo, can you, I don't know, go into his social media page or something?
That is not allowed.
And try and dig out one throwback picture because of the description that he's giving us.
Plus, he will not find it.
He will not find it, eh?
God willing. Well, this morning I have, let me just say that out, at the Daily Statesman newspaper. So I have the Daily Graphic, the Business and Financial Times, and the Daily Statesman that I'll be looking at. What papers do you have?
All right, I've got the Times, the Daily Guide, the Custodian, the Daily Dispatch, and the Business Finder. It's just the finder that turns business on Thursday. So these are the papers that I have. Shall we go straight into the papers?
Let's do.
All right. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, horrific. And they put it right. Never thought that we would experience another situation like what I'm about to tell you. This has to do with that accident that we're told 18 humans lost their lives. Both drivers on the two buses gone, even though according to the accounts being given by some of the survivors, there was a sleepy driver. But of course, both of them are gone. You can't tell who on which of the buses, but if you look at the pictures, it will tell you. And yesterday when we first reported the story here on Joy News on television, when the pictures were rolling, and hopefully we'll be able to share, I couldn't believe it. I thought it were from the files, not like a current incident. I was totally
shocked. It struck you that you know,
I was
hard.
shocked. You should see the remains of the buses, what their time has done. We appreciate it, but we will show you the pictures so that you can feel the impact of what we're talking about. I can't imagine that we're still here after the earlier accidents that we recorded. I mean, you can't have an accident like two huge buses just clashing. Like
It obviously tells you there was something amiss, but the bit about a sleepy driver or a driver sleeping, you know, in recent times, it's not the first we've heard. In very recent times, this would be like at least the second we've heard of such an instance with a driver who supposedly was dozing off behind the wheel, because it doesn't, I mean, these are two different lanes. You don't have drivers, you know, or buses colliding head on like that. So it obviously means someone veered off his stretch of road, and this is the result. You know, the last time I was talking about logbooks and the rest, especially when we went to Ashaiman, you know, the lorry station, and we're interacting with the NRSA, the DVLA, among others, and I made mention of the fact that we need these logbooks to ensure that people, when they need to sleep, they are sleeping the requisite hours. And I was told, for example, that some such initiative had started, but there's a problem of illiteracy and some people not knowing what to fill and all of that. And of course, implementation, ensuring that people are doing the right thing. But until we start doing these in other parts of the world, it is there. And if you don't log and if you don't transfer to someone else to drive, you're going to be in hot waters. And until we do such things, people are going to continue dying. Yeah. People are tired and they are driving.
Yeah. We'll have a full-blown conversation on the AM show on this issue. Back on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, though, on the ongoing election petition, Supreme Court dismisses petitioner's application. Also, NLA KGL technology set to roll out digital services to generate revenue. Two Ada youth groups chiefs throw weight behind Songo Salt project. And then if you go to the page 3, where they usually will have the crime stories, 59 Okada riders arrested at Adenta. This was part of an exercise which sought to clamp down on criminal activities. It was conducted at Adenta Housing Down Survival School Junction area, Frafraha Ayimensa in Adenta Aviation areas. The PRO of the Accra Regional Police Command said at about 5 a.m. on January 3rd. Okay, so this was last month. Okay, there's more in this report. I guess if you're interested, you can check out the Ghanaian Times. In the center spread, the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists, they've asked members of the public to follow due procedures in assessing the free coronavirus disease tests in public laboratories as announced by the government. All right, so in a statement that they issued yesterday, they welcomed the directive by the Ministry of Health in the belief that, quote, prompt and regular testing to identify cases to facilitate management, quarantine and isolation to curb further spread is key to winning the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, unquote. However, its preferred guidelines for which the public must follow in order to fully benefit from the offer. I'm not sure I'm reading this right, but they give some further guidelines in this. And then is it Nibima?
I call it.
What's the local name you said?
Is it
Nibima? No, you.
I pronounce it Nibima because usually
Nibima is.
It sounds anglicized for me because of I mean what I know about phonetics. Our languages are not very phonetic. We pronounce things, they are flat.
Okay, so let me follow your pronunciation.
Nibima.
Nibima. Okay. It's only approved for phase 2 clinical trial on COVID-19 patients. There's some clarity to this matter. So the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has cautioned the public against use of this medicine that Ben mentioned, Nibima. The school, in a statement signed by its PRO, clarified the approval of the herbal medicine by the Food and Drugs Authority was only for a phase 2 clinical trial on COVID-19 patients and not for public use. You see, that's the problem. if it's not for public use and you announce it publicly, then there is a problem.
You know, the Malagasy cure is on my mind right now. You remember they came out and, cited the fact that the world was not accepting this cure, miracle cure they had. And eventually we found out that they were going down with the disease. But I was actually interacting just yesterday with one Dr. Lawrence and Professor Mutuchelu. They were actually at the helm of, this team that investigated this. The scientific name is a mouthful, so I'll just stay away from it. But quite some interesting bits there when you read their report about, herbal remedies across the world. You remember some of those components? For example, in the United States, hydroxychloroquine, how it came to the fore, especially under Trump, and then was debunked and all of that. So here's another one, but at least the FDA giving us a very positive highlight. And when you look at the dynamics of this, supposedly it has some agents that counter the virus in terms of, some of it's attaching to certain cells and, reproducing and all of that. So let's see how things pan out as we continue to engage the scientists on the dynamics of this drug and what exactly we can use it for moving forward.
When the product is already on the market and you come and make an announcement that you've got approval for something, obviously people won't take their time to understand the details of it. They'll just rush for it. Well, following the surge in our COVID cases, the Anglo Traditional Council has postponed Rawlins's final funeral rites. There was another one set to happen in my hometown, but it's been postponed. So take notice. Some sports stories on the back page.
Anglo babies in the building.
Yeah, man. All right, that's it for the Times.
Well, let me get into the Daily Graphic now. Election petition, Supreme Court dismisses application to inspect EC's documents. This is what, the fourth one so far? So we had the one about interrogatories, then we had the request for a review, then there was the one that followed, and now we have this one too that has been turned down. But when it comes to court cases, don't read too much meaning into these, because as a court case goes on, usually what you see isn't what you get at the tail end. But pictures there of Chachu Chikata, lead counsel for the petitioner, Justin Amenuvo, lead counsel for the first respondent, and Akoto Ampao, lead counsel for the second respondent. Carnage on our roads. 19 perish in Buipe Tamale crash. We started talking about that, and later on the show, as we engage the National Road Safety Authority, we'll be digging into what exactly this means, what the dynamics are, the number of people who lost their lives last year, and what we can do to forestall similar incidents this year. We've already lost a number of people this year. Graphic man wins 1.42 million Ghana cedi lottery, highest jackpot in Ghana's history. And he was surprised because he only, put 50 Ghana cedis on it and got all this money. And he was saying he never really expected it. In fact, it comes with an additional 20,000 Ghana cedis because of this master stroke of his. He's with the marketing department at the Graphic Communications Group.
How much is that again?
1.42 million Ghana cedis.
Ooh. Have they paid?
Well, per the story, he has a check in his hand, a dummy, so I would want to assume.
That's what a dummy. What's his name so we can look for him? At least I can look for him.
Charles Akwa Ahen.
The painful thing is, I've never mentioned him or, reached out to him. I'm only interested because he has a huge check in his hands. That won't be fair.
Well, his reaction in tears of joy, he shared his life-changing testimony with the Daily Graphic, saying, "This prize has come to transform not only my life, but that of many." So, Mama V, who knows?
The many.
You could be one of the many. Just approach. The Bible says ask. So that gory story on page 3, I should say, about the 19 who have died. A quick one at some international stories. Detained Aung San Suu Kyi faces charges. She's being remanded in custody until February 15. And some charges leveled against her, breaching import and export laws and possession of unlawful communication devices. Can you imagine that? I mean, of course, when you're in Myanmar, some of these things, I'm sorry, but this interests me before I go to the middle spread. Appoint more women in government. That's an alliance the convener of the Alliance for Inclusive Governance, Okatechie Peter Asante, making a passionate appeal to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to appoint more women into leadership positions in his new government. But when you look at the numbers and all of that, doesn't look like there's a monumental change, is there?
I just hope that it's, and I'll take my time and read the story. I just hope that it's just the headline that's making me want to comment, but I don't want to comment. Appoint more women simply because they are women?
Well, not simply because they are women.
That's
definitely
it's just
not.
The headline. That's not.
But the point would be made that, of course, there are many, many qualified women who, in some areas, are not rubbing shoulders with the men or are not being allowed to. There are impediments in their way, and of course, if those impediments can be removed and facilitate a free, fair playing field, why not? I mean, in places like when you have to take a certain percentage of parliamentarians and make them ministers, you have some 60% or so, and you have access to a certain pool, is it not possible to ensure that maybe as many women as possible become ministers, as many as possible are appointed as DCEs and the rest? These are things that are within the power of the chief executive of the land, Mr. President.
I probably will belong to a minority group on this with my thoughts. I would say appoint people who can perform, irrespective, whether they are women or men.
Child marriage project rescues 10 girls in Kumasi. Should time suffice, that's one of the stories I'd like to get into. The middle spread of the paper now. And of course, there's also talk on page 17 of Parliament releasing dates for the vetting of appointees. It's a matter we're digging into this morning on the show. Middle spread, public officers cited for corruption to be referred to AG. It's the Office of the Special Prosecutor as well. So AG and the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And there's also beneficial ownership information disclosure mandatory. That's according to the Registrar General. On the back page, Tamale interchange to be completed in July. Good news for those in Tamale. And then Bosch, the manufacturer, rolls out strategy to recycle lead acid batteries. So that's it with the Daily Graphic newspaper by way of headlines. I'll delve into the stories later.
Let's do the Daily Guide newspaper. Front page says government releases 1.2 billion Ghana cedis for COVID relief. Supreme Court bounces Mahama documents requests. Don't shout, I've killed someone. Kidnapper, and kidnapper is in quote, tells kidnapper in quotes. This has to do
Samuel Udo took Wills.
Exactly, and the other. So stories on page 3.
One shouty.
In the course of, so let me start from the beginning. Chief of State Attorney prosecuting the case involving the kidnapping and subsequent murder of the 4 Takoradi missing girls revealed at a Second High Court yesterday that a quarrel once ensued between the 2 Nigerian suspects arrested in the case. In the course of the quarrel, the second accused person, John Oji, was shouting on top of his voice, and the first accused, Samuel Udotek Wills, told his compatriot to shut up because he, Mr. Wills, has killed someone in the room. According to the Chief State Attorney, this was contained in a statement that the second accused person, Mr. Oji, gave to the police as part of the investigations into the case. The Chief State Attorney, while cross-examining the second accused person who had opened his defense, asked, quote, when you visited the first accused in December 2018, a quarrel ensued between the 2 of you, and you started shouting that the first accused person asked you not to make noise and be shouting because he had killed someone. That is in your statement, and you signed, unquote. Ms. Oji answered that, quote, this is my statement, but not my sentence, unquote. And then the Chief State Attorney stated that, Charlie, can't we have like a live broadcast of all these court proceedings? So here's what she said. Oh, I hope that is a she, right? Or let me just say Chief State Attorney. I know that the kidnapped girls are 3 and Sami knows their whereabouts. She then said, I'm putting it to you that you gave the information voluntarily to the police, but Mr. Oji retorted, I disagree to that. He explained that after he was arrested, he was asked how many girls were missing, and he said he was told they were 3, adding, I never added that Mr. Wills knew their whereabouts. Charlie, this is a lot of back and forth. If you understand what's happening with the Supreme Court, this is like the practical thing that happens almost every day in one high court or the other. So you can catch up with where we are with this matter, with what happened in court.
But that point you made earlier about whether we should be seeing proceedings. I mean, there's a reason some of these are held in camera. I think it's pretty sensitive, and some of the things that might come up, I don't know.
It will help
really
us appreciate the work of the courts, I guess. There are some entertainment stories in the center spread.
Interested in this one?
What was that? Beast of No Nation, star takes to smoking. I had a story about him going back to the streets and begging and stuff like that. But he said, Beast of No Nation actor Striker is allegedly wasting his life away as he has now taken to smoking. In his latest video circulating on social media, Striker has confessed to smoking, though he didn't state exactly what he smokes. He suggested that it helps him overcome his depression. According to him, smoking is what helps him deal with his overthinking, suggesting he may not stop anytime soon.
So Striker has struck.
Yeah. I mean, he got to that huge stage with this movie, and then, you know, back to square one.
It just tells you how things pan out. What's the name of the other? You know, there was another one who very popular. Abraham, who ended up in that Spider-Man movie. I mean, very brief, but he at least seems to have made something, even got into Hollywood proper. It's been a while we heard
He's
from him.
He's in the States.
And of course, prominently in that movie, Idris Elba. I just feel some of these young lads didn't get anybody to manage them, you know, properly, because left to their own devices with a bit of cash here and there. Education-wise even, I think it was the same Striker
they put him in school and then he got out and plenty things. Or somebody managing him, he has some disagreements with him, some public stuff.
At that age, they are very impressionable and they need someone to guide them. I think he's simply not got the right influences. I think so. Smoking and hitting the streets.
Yeah, now he's begging. All right, that's it for the Daily Guide. Plenty of other stories. You can grab the paper later.
Well, it's quite interesting when you look at the Business and Financial Times this morning. Government borrowing appetite squeezes lending to private sector. And of course, if government
borrowing appetite.
Just borrowing, no. What blood tonic is government taking when it comes to borrowing? Anyway, so it's squeezing lending to the private sector. And of course, you know, when government borrows a lot, it means that what the private sector will get, both individuals and businesses, will also shrink because a lot is going to government. That's basically the summation of the story. And according to a summary of the economic and financial data, that is for January 2021, published by the Bank of Ghana, it has shown that the growth of total advances to the private sector declined to 5.8% of December 2020 from 23.6% of the previous year, a sharp decline of 17.8 percentage points. Meanwhile, the data further reveals that domestic debt in nominal terms increased by 21.9 billion Ghana cedis, with the stated period recording 147.3 billion Ghana cedis in December 2020. A lot more. I don't want to give you all the details. You can grab a copy of that paper. On page 2, you'll find that story. Oforiatta doles out 1.2 billion Ghana cedis to ECG and the Ghana Water Company Limited as part of payment for free water and electricity. When the payment must happen, it will definitely come from somewhere. There's also flexible insurance policies would attract importers. You can check out that story as well. What you need to know before you buy a real property, the property due diligence checklist. You can check that out in the Business and Financial Times as well. And Access Bank on the back page tops all in customer service index ranking. That's it with the Business and Financial Times.
All right, let's do the Daily Dispatch. MPP's 2024 flag bearer race, Baomi and Alan could need each other, according to Benefsin. And he says, for instance, if you read details of what he's put out today, that Baumia may lose the primaries if he doesn't get the support of Alan Kay, for instance. There's plenty more that you can read on this.
This thing is warming up, isn't it? In recent times, we've seen all the posters and the pictures and the continuity after the 8 and breaking that 8 chain and all of that. Question, though, is who is going to be the flag bearer? And some have said that, I mean, Alan, with his history with the party before the current vice president came, is not going to want to cede and become number 2 spot or take number 2 spot now, though he is not vice president. We've seen some saying that it is Alan's time, others say it is Bawumia to move. And that book on the back page of the Daily Dispatch actually has part of that story, because Benefson conducted a bit of a survey during the last Congress of the NPP, and what came out was that the vice president wouldn't be the most popular for that slot at the time. This was what, 2018, 2019? Okay. So we only wait to see what will happen.
So what's the proposal? Bawumia Alan ticket? Is that the proposal? Because, you know, when I read the bit about, except if he had the support of Alan, that's the little...
Probably it would mean that Alan would have to give the nod for him to go. But we also have the experience from, is it 2004? With Aliu Mahama. I'm talking about 2004, 2008, I think. Aliu Mahama, the former vice president, and what happened to him. He placed a distant third, didn't he? You remember?
Can't remember that. I mean,
was
it when there was 17 on the ticket?
Was it when they were 17? But I know most definitely that, of course, he didn't win. I think he placed either 3rd or 4th. But the point to be made, it was woeful. He didn't come anywhere close to securing.
Well, listen, we still have, a bit of time before we get to that point. But listen, you can grab the paper and see the thoughts of Benefson.
Yeah, to tell it
in there. In the paper. Oh, there's another headline. What did you say?
Yeah, to tell it.
Housing Ministry was denied funding, according to Atachia. He's a former Works and Housing Minister, and he says that he didn't get the kind of loans that other ministries, got
found that quite
in
interesting.
The ministry, and he disagrees that he didn't do anything because he didn't have a lot of money, and that was, a decision by the finance minister. He did not agree, but he didn't have a choice. So there's a lot to it in the paper today.
Especially when, you remember the talk about toilet facilities for households, especially, he got some backlash when he spoke about the Nima area and all of that, and then joint work with the Ministry for Sanitation and Water Resources. I don't think we saw anything come out of that. So who knows? Maybe that feeds into the fact that there was not enough funding to...
Because I know that he had some
fantastic
ideas. He was one of the ministers who was easily either approachable or available. He would share his thoughts. And I know that they had some fantastic plans, because he boldly would go out there and make statements, for instance. But if you don't have the cash, you don't have the money. Yeah.
The Daily Statesman now. Government urged to collaborate with KGL Limited to enhance digitization. There's KMA Commission's completed projects in senior high schools. Maybe we can get some shots of the Daily Statesman. Mahama suffers another blow. Supreme Court dismisses application to inspect EC's documents. And there's government pays 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, as indicated earlier. When you go to page 5, there's a story there that is of interest. Why are the Chinese allowed to fell Ghana's neem tree for export? We're talking medicinal value, how worrying it is that the Chinese are hewing down the entire, well, maybe not the entirety, that's how the paper puts it, neem trees, and shipping them out of the country. It takes years for neem trees to grow to the size of their current state, as are being cut down by the Chinese. What could be the reason for Ghanaians selling neem trees for cutting down by the Chinese? It's a bit of an article by one Roxanne Adolfo, so approach it as such. It's an article, it's a piece by Roxanne Adolfo. When you think of Rosewood and what has happened, in recent times, this would give you some cause for concern. There's also thinking about the Chinese, so to speak, taking over Ghana. Check out that article and make of it what you will. When you go to the center spread, KMA commissions completed projects in senior high schools, and it talks about how the Ashanti Regional Directorate of the Ghana Education Service has recorded at least 5.6% increase in enrollment of students in senior high schools since the start of the MPP's free senior high school policy in 2017. And of course, on the back of that, there was need for more schools to be built. You can check out that photo there of a 3-story boys' dormitory at the Kumasi Technical SHS. On the back page, Man United 9, Southampton 0. That is not going anywhere anytime soon. How do Ralph,
Masa,
or how does...
Dead news.
How does Ralph Hasenhüttl's side recover again? They are saying that two referees, the one who refed their match against, was it Villa or Fulham? And the one for Manchester United should not ref their matches again. But the question is, what did the refs do to them? That same referee denied Man U about 2 penalties. So it's all in there. So that's it for the Daily Statesman newspaper.
Okay, last paper, but let's... okay, no, I can drop this. So go ahead.
They're carrying the same headline.
We have I was just going to talk about the Momo Transactions. So if you look at the Business Finder newspaper, it says Momo Transactions hits 569 billion Ghana cedis in 2020. Thanks to, well, there are negative aspects of everything, but there are also some positives. But this is due mainly because of the situation with the pandemic. The festivities and all, a lot of people are having a lot more transactions. One of my colleagues said she couldn't remember the last time she bought a scratch card because she uses the Momo to do it.
And it's enticing because when you purchase credits from there, some of the networks give you extra bonuses and all of that. So it's much more enticing.
All right. So there's a lot more in terms of the number of people registered on mobile money, which is at 38.5 million people. Active mobile money accounts hit 17.1 million at the end of December 2020. More of these kind of statistics in the paper today you can grab. Ben?
Well, I'm going to veer away and do this story as promised from the Daily Graphic. Child Marriage Project rescues 10 girls in Kumasi. Think of 16-year-old Safia Ahmed, who was married off to a middle-aged butcher in the Ivory Coast in contravention of Ghanaian law on child marriage. A resident of Asawase, a community in Kumasi, Safia had then completed junior high school and became convinced that her dream to pursue senior high school education would not be fulfilled. After 2 months of unbearable sexual assault, Safia managed, with the help of some Ghanaians she chanced upon, to escape back to Ghana. And these are some of the cases that the DOFSU has been handling. It's only based on a tip-off that they were able to rescue Safia. So there's a child marriage project that is on I Am a Child, Not a Bride, and they are ensuring that, together with the United Nations Population Fund, Adolescent Girls Program, that girls like Safia are not, placed in such situations, so to speak. You can check out more details from the story as Superintendent Susanna Derry sheds light on the matter, but a very great worry. And I think somewhere they cited some places where this has become a big problem in Kumasi. Asawase, Abuabo, Sawaba, and Edukrum, all communities in Kumasi, noted for a high incidence of child marriage. And you know why a lot of them get into this? Poverty, and more.
Yeah.
In Sembibri.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, this is where we have to end it. We've got plenty of stories on myjorionline.com. Coming up next, we've got sports. There was a scare with Barcelona in Spain yesterday, but they managed to, go through.
Granada showed them a little pepe, small pepe.
If you missed it, we'll tell you all that action coming up next, and plenty more, especially what's happening locally as well.
Especially as Liverpool is not a team. Liverpool is not a team. They are something else, but not a team.
Yeah, so
they are not. I don't know.
Okay, stay with us. Sports is up next.
Let's turn our attention now to the Ghana Premier League, and Asante Kotoko, they returned to winning ways in the Ghana Premier League on Wednesday evening with a 1-0 win over Inter-Allies to see the Porcupine Warriors move back into the top four. Kotoko had failed to win their last 2 league games and managed to put a stop to that unfortunate run at the Accra Sports Stadium thanks to a penalty in the second half by Naby Keita.
They last one against 11 Wonders on match day 7. Kwame Poku is doing the run. That's some good defending from Issa Ali.
Good ball from Gama, but he wasn't giving up the chase.
Look at him, always trying to be a nuisance for those centre-backs and defenders that he comes up against. Issa Ali had to be aware, he had to watch all the way and just... Imoro delivers. Fabio Gama, what was he waiting for? He finds Fabio Gama. Lovely play from the Brazilian. He's been heckled. And I'm sure he's going to get the referee to be thinking about making a call. Compares him to be, holding him here. It's a difficult. Imoro! Brilliant! Good save from Ahinkra. Astana Imoro Ibrahim. Yeah, and it's the best effort we've seen of the night. Imoro Ibrahim was driving through the middle. Almost like a 1-2 with him and Kwame Poku. So we can ride for Latch. Good play from Frimpong. Sarkodie! Straight to Ahinkra. Poku takes the advantage after Issa slip. Is it a penalty? Yes, it is a penalty. Issa Ibrahim brings down Kwame Poku. With the leg, you should have just turned around and followed the ball and get it out for safety. But that is the willingness of Kwame Poku. Never gives up on any ball. Get the chase. Didn't want to bring the ball into his stride, and once he took that touch and got it. Referee whistles. Keita steps forward. It's a goal. Katako 1 into Allies still.
Certainly, Porcupine Warriors back to winning ways, and the talk of town yesterday again was Fabio Gama. Made things happen for Kumasi Asante Kodoko. In other games, Liberty Professionals and visiting Indiana Stars at the Carl Randolph Park yesterday. The two teams were in action, and for Indiana, coach Parkwesi Fabian, his team scored a perfect goal which was disallowed to his dissatisfaction.
We scored a perfect goal. The ball hit the net before it came. The referee was right on the spot. And he was looking at the linesman. Oh, amazing. Amazing. Well, I might say it was an average performance. But then, getting to the end, we were now finding our rhythm. And then we got a perfect goal. Yeah. Strangely, the referees didn't whistle for it. I'm shocked.
Well, Coach Parkwesi Fabian certainly not impressed with the performance of the match day officials there. Goal line technology maybe could have solved that problem. Let's check out the full complement of results for the Ghana Premier League match week 12. Great Olympics that the boys continue to make things happen in the Ghana Premier League, beating Kinfaiza by 3-1. Brekum Chelsea beating Bichim United by 2-0. Liberty 0, Diana Stars 0. Ebusian Dwarfs 2, Ashanti Gold 1, Dreams FC 3, Wafa 0, 11 Wonders 0, Elmina Sharks 0, Asante Kodoko beating Intalais by 1-0. We take a look at the Premier League table, and Karela United, top of the table. They've got a game in hand. 21 points. They have Great Olympics also with 21 points. Asante Kodoko in third place on 20 points. Not too far from the table toppers. And there's Bichim United, Wafa, Diana Stars, Dreams FC, Ashanti Gold, Hearts of Oak in 9th place on 16 points. The other half of the table, Elmina Sharks in 10th with 16 points. Ebusian Dwarfs also with 16 points in 11th place. Mediamar 12 with 14 points. There's 11 Wonders, Brekum Chelsea, Legon Cities, and Liberty all the way to 16th position. Liberty on 11 points. Kinfaiza on 10 points. And Inter Allies, what is happening to them this season? They've got just 7 points from 12 matches. Remaining fixtures for March week 12. Mediama will play against Accra Hearts of Oak and Legon Cities versus Karela. Cracking games to look forward to today, Thursday, the 4th of February. And in Takwa, that's where Mediama will play against Accra Hearts of Oak. And Legon Cities, here at the Accra Sports Stadium, take on Karela United.
Welcome to AM Talk. It's a segment on our show where we discuss very topical issues in our country. We try to break the issues down, and we also share thoughts from MPs and other very important persons in our society. Well, today we're engaging two members of Parliament. Andrew Ejapamesa is a lawyer and an MP for 2nd D. And Roxanne Nelson Dafamapo is also a lawyer and MP for South Dai. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Ejapamesa, I saw you there.
Morning, Mamavi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
Very well. Thank you for asking.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Can I say hello to Mr. Roxanne Nelson Dafamapo? Mr. Dafamapo, if you can hear me? I guess not quite.
My friend, Mr. Ejapamesa, MP for 2nd D. Ejapa, I haven't seen your name. I want to see your name as a deputy minister. It has to happen.
That is the sole prerogative of His Excellency the President.
I'm praying for you, my brother.
This your mischief will not fly this morning.
Well, I want to ask you both if you've taken the COVID tests that the Speaker told us some members had taken. Did you take the test, Ejapamesa?
Yes, I did. Indeed, that was my second in 2 weeks. I'd taken a test immediately after the swearing-in ceremonies. Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers. It's important. And, of course, to my constituents in 2nd D who are taking time off this morning to watch us. And, so I've taken a test, I believe, on the 10th. Yeah. And then subsequently, when the Speaker indicated that parliamentarians were to do a test, I did so again on the scheduled date that my name was indicated to take. So I did indeed took the test, yes.
Would you mind sharing the test results?
Well, for the second one, I have not been informed of the outcome, which then presupposes that I was negative. But to be honest with you, I tested positive the first time. So I went through the necessary protocols and thankfully, my symptoms were mild and I've duly recovered and back to work.
Okay, great. But the second test that was done through Parliament, you don't have the results?
No, I don't. Because I guess that the protocol with respect to the test that we do in Parliament, this is not the first time that we've done a test in Parliament, was that it is only those who tested positive who were contacted to then proceed to take the necessary steps relative to isolating and subsequently seeking treatment if need be. Yeah.
Okay. So this was about a week ago, you say?
Yes, about a week ago.
All right. Let me ask your colleague. Mr. Dafamapo, did you take the tests?
Hello, Mama B.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Did you take the tests?
Yes. And let me add that routine medical testing is part of something we do in Parliament. Indeed, last year when the issue first broke in the country and became severe, all MPs were directed by then Speaker Michael Quay to also test. And I recall that some didn't do it, so it became an issue. So I think sometime in June or July, before we went on recess to go and handle the campaign, those members who didn't go through the test were actually compelled to go and test. You know, so it's something we do from time to time.
Okay.
And when new Parliament is also sworn in, we are taking through a comprehensive medical testing and review. So it happens to be the case that this time, when we went through that comprehensive medical testing, COVID became part of it.
Okay.
So I also went through the test. And indeed, if today is Thursday, so I did my test 2 weeks ago as part of the general medical testing of new members.
I know you wouldn't mind sharing your results with us, the test results.
To Parliament. I'm negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So isn't this even helpful so that when we hear that there are other MPs who don't want to take the test or some have taken the test, tested positive and they still walk into the chamber.
No,
That's shameful, isn't it?
I think this is what is happening. Out of the 275 members of parliament, the testing is done for all the parliamentary service staff as well, security men, workers, anybody who works within parliament is also asked to go through the testing. So the numbers were really high. And some members who were not available at the time that they were allotted to test. So, for instance, on our side, I knew of about 8 members who were not available to test. Some too decided to do private testing and to submit the report to Parliament. So I have to place that on record. And then some too who tested positive also were asked to stay away to take care of themselves. Even though they are asymptomatic, they've been asked to go and do self-isolation and go through the protocol. So the medical doctors attached to the clinic of Parliament handled those things. But I think Speaker's position is that, the leadership, they have the list, so they know who are the positive ones and who are those who are yet to contract the disease. And so I can understand Speaker that if he knows Honorable Member A is positive on the list that he has, and he sees him in the house, he will be apprehensive. So it's a good call that if he tests positive, he just stay away, go to the protocol.
But do you know any of your colleagues who tested positive who are still visiting the house?
I know. I know.
Do you know any of your colleagues who also refused to take the tests?
No, I know it's not that they refused. I think they were just informed that from the list that they have, they are yet to do their testing, so they should go through. You can't say you refuse. It's not something you can refuse to do. It's for your own good. Perhaps for one reason or the other, they were not available to go through the testing. And like I said, others who decided to go to private medical centers to do the testing and submit the report. But the point I want to make is that every single person, it's a requirement that every single person goes through it, so you know your status. And the contracting we live in a single continuum. You can test negative today, and tomorrow you test positive. Absolutely. So it's not as if because you test negative, you shouldn't take precautions so that you don't contract it. It's possible you can contract it tomorrow. So Speaker is only sounding a word of caution to everybody, including staff who serve us in the chamber.
But Mr. Speaker is also worried that people who have tested positive are still coming to Parliament. They are still coming into the chamber. Yesterday, listening to the statement that the First Deputy Speaker read, I mean, that's what it sought to suggest. There are people who have tested positive, who are MPs, who are still visiting the House.
Yes, Mama V, I spoke to that matter. What I said was that matters of medical issues are confidential matters. But like I said, leadership and speakership of the House, they will have the list. So, for instance, my brother Ijapa cannot know that I am positive or negative of COVID-19, and I don't know his status unless he shares that with me. But the speakership or leadership of Parliament, they will have that list.
Okay, just a final one, then I'll move to Ejapa. Are you in favor of a publication?
Publication of the list?
Of the list, yes.
No, I'm not in favor because these are medical matters and they are confidential matters. It's a matter of law.
But I thought you'd be more worried that someone sitting next to you has tested positive and is still showing up.
Yes, so like I'm saying, medical records are matters of confidentiality.
This is a pandemic. Okay, let me let you hold it for now. Let me get Ejapa Mensah into this conversation. Let me get his thoughts as well.
Medical records are strictly confidential.
Okay, so now we're speaking law. There's a pandemic staring us and we're talking law. Let me ask Japan Mesa, are you in favor of a publication of the list of those MPs who have tested positive?
Well, maybe, of course, I mean, you need to ask the same question of yourself before you extend it to the MP. So I guess that, and I agree with Rox. I mean, yes, we are in a pandemic. We all agree. People's medical records are confidential to them. They can elect to disclose it or otherwise. I don't think that Parliament...
But if you're not being responsible?
Well, that is why the Speaker has indicated that those who are not, then of course, clearly, he can use some other means to compel you to take the necessary steps as is required of you. But for him to just publish, and indeed, it is not everybody's list or name which will be published to the extent that that person is abiding by the clear rules that when you test positive, you self-isolate, and then, of course, when the 10 to 14 day lapses, at which point you obviously, per the science as we've been told, you cannot transmit. You go for a further test to confirm you're negative before you can resume regular duties. So I think that those who are aware that they've tested positive and are not abiding by the rules or to take a cue from the Speaker's announcement yesterday and do the needful. It's in their own interest.
I'm just worried, when news like this goes out there, people would say, oh, look at our MPs. They are not even doing it. And you want to force us to do it. I mean, do MPs understand that people are watching and learning from what you do and you are in a leadership position?
Well, yeah, I agree. But I'm saying that relative to the disclosure of personal medical records, the Speaker will not have the power to do so unless he is compelled. There are very limited circumstances under which those records can be made public. And so to that extent, I can only implore my colleagues who are in that situation. And I know quite a few who tested positive, who did the needful, stayed away, and have duly recovered and are back to work.
Are we challenging the Speaker's authority to publish the list of names of those MPs who tested positive?
I'm not sure that any of our comments suggest challenging the Speaker's authority per se, but relative to disclosure of medical records, of course, that's why he sounded the warning, because I agree that this is not some disease that is personal to you, that is not transmissible. We are in a pandemic, and so the expectation is that everybody who has tested positive will do the needful by self-isolating. And so if you're a member of Parliament and you know that you've tested positive and you're not doing so, then I guess that that will include the Speaker with powers to disclose or name, that individual and ask that he does what is required of him.
Mr. Nafamako, let me allow you, the last word on this.
Yes, Mama, let me, and my brother is aware that it's not only MPs that patronize Parliament or the chamber. Anytime we are sitting, we have over 100 parliamentary staff, 7 members of Parliament. Those that send documents around. Even journalists have access to our chamber, the way the chamber is arranged now, especially when we are using the tent, security men, and all that. So the focus should not really be on MPs who are MPs alone. The parliamentary service staff that we come into contact with every day, even when we are out of session. So it's important that we, as an organ of state, we focus on protecting each and every member or staff that works within the presence of Parliament. That's my point. So I don't think that the attention should be on, or the responsibility or otherwise of this matter should be entirely placed on the heads of MPs. No. We may not be the only source of a contamination. There are other agents, like I've mentioned.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what's been suggested. I mean, we find it a bit disappointing that parliamentarians, some parliamentarians will either refuse to take the test or some have tested positive and they are not isolating and treating themselves.
Let me tell you how Parliament works every day when we during a session. When we arrive, there are staff that come to you. You have to, for instance, sign your name. They give you a pen to sign. We use only one pen. If you are not minded to bring your own pen, that can be a source of contamination. They come to you, they give you documents. But we take steps to observe protocols. We sanitize, we do all that. So I am saying that apart from MPs interacting among themselves, we also have serious interaction and interface with other parliamentary service staff. So caution should also be thrown to those.
All right.
That's my point.
Let's talk about another matter which also came out of Parliament in terms of Mr. Haruna Idrisu's comment, which sort of suggests that even though there was a list talking about the membership of the Council of State, Parliament has not been notified. Can you expand on that, Mr. Dapamakwa? What's really the concern?
Now, the concern of my leader is to the effect that the constitutional provision that governs that matter is very clear. And it has to be in consultation with Parliament. And so, in his mind, the fact that the President, Tuomoto, nominated those persons and simply forwarded the list for the attention of Parliament, it's not meeting the requirements within that provision, which to the effect that we have to consult. And so, if it's about consultation, you don't do so unilaterally. Consultation implies a joint effort. My effort should be there, my input should be there, yours input as well. So I think it's a matter. If you recall, there are one or two case laws from the Supreme Court on this matter in consultation with what does it mean. So it's not a point that we can belabor, but I think it's simply drawing the President's attention that if he has to consult Parliament, he should do the consultation. That's all his point.
Hasn't it always been like this?
Yes, but that's what the Constitution says. If something has to be done in consultation with another, the person has to be consulted. There are lots of provisions that are to the effect that, for instance, nomination of persons, sometimes if you want to appoint judges or Supreme Court judges, for instance, the consultations you have to be done with the Judicial Council, for instance. Judicial Council's input will be there. And so if you ignore them and you make the appointment, it's a problem. There are, I recall, other provisions, particularly if you speak of nominating. I don't have it on top of my head, but other statutory agencies will have to be consulted. So if you don't consult the people and you do so unilaterally, it creates a problem.
Do you share his thoughts, Mr. Japamesa?
Well, I don't, because in the first place, the list that came out pursuant to Article 89 of the Constitution lists various categories or includes two categories of people. One that the President himself, per the Constitution, I believe in 89 2D, okay, that 11 other members appointed by the President. The list of the 11 was there. And then it is under 89 2A that describes some persons whom the President has to appoint in consultation.
Okay, so if you permit me, or would you mind reading if you have it?
Yeah, very well. Article 89.
I'm in the constituency. I'm in the village.
No, I actually also have it. But if Mr. Mesa, would you read it?
Very well.
It says the Council of State shall consist of A, and this is 89.2. The following persons appointed by the President in consultation with Parliament. One person who has previously held the office of Chief Justice. One person who has previously held the office of Chief of Defence Staff of the Armed Forces of Ghana. One person who has previously held the office of Inspector General of Police. B, the President of the, so this is 89 2B, the President of the National House of Chiefs. And C, one representative from each region that is going to go through an election. If you see the notice, it was clearly indicated that the election of the regional representatives is going to take place sometime in February. And then, of course, D, 11 other members appointed by the President. So I'm saying that the list that was issued, 11 names on that list were to be appointed so motu by the President. It doesn't require any parliamentary consultation.
How do you arrive at that conclusion? Because you're still
says.
No, but that's
because if you look at 89.2,
yes,
which says the Council of State shall consist of A, the following persons appointed by the President in consultation with Parliament, and D falls under 2.
No, the A, the 2 has an A, I, and then B. So the provision relative to A only limits the parliamentary consultation to the Chief Justice, one person previously held the office of Chief of Defence Staff, and the person who's previously held the IGP role. That's it. With respect to B, President of the House of Chiefs, it does not require parliamentary consultation. Indeed, if you go further to D and C, one representative each from the region who are elected, are they going to be elected in consultation with Parliament as well?
Okay.
They obviously are not.
Okay,
and
so
D, the 11 other members appointed by the President is the sole prerogative of His Excellency the President. So it's in respect of only the 3 people, the former Chief Justice, the former Chief of Defence Staff, and the former IGP, that he does in consultation with the President, not with the prior approval of Parliament, not with the prior approval of Parliament where you go through the process of he submitting the names like he does with parliamentary ministerial nominations and even appointment of judges, and the Speaker refers to the appointments committee for them to, if you like, vet the nominees before they submit a report to plenary for plenary to debate and either approve or disapprove of the nominations. It says consultation, question of whether the President should consult all the 275 members of Parliament, only the Speaker, only the leadership of Parliament. It's not provided for in the Constitution. So you recall that when the Speaker himself was making his ruling, he said that, well, consultation could even take the nature of a phone call. And he proceeded to say that he has not received any said phone call from His Excellency the President. So my point is this, that it should not be suggested that the entirety of the list that was put out by Mr. Eugene Haim, the Communications Director, Acting Communications Director at the Presidency, ought to have been done with the parliamentary input that my colleagues on the other side seem to suggest. Okay. It's only in respect of the 3. And even that, these are people who served as Council of State members during the first term of His Excellency the President. There's been no changes. And so the question is whether, well, I really don't know. But I don't think that this is any big deal that they should be making a big fuss about.
Okay, let me just cross over real quick. Mr. Dafamako, this seemed clear. The explanation that is given, and I'm looking at I'm looking at the words again, the numbers again, and it's quite clear, the explanation he gives.
The explanation is given is not clear. You asked him whether he agrees with me. He said no. But in his explanation, he agrees that there are a category of appointees that requires that Parliament is consulted.
Except that the list that is out does not include that category of persons.
It does. It does include Georgina Wood, former Chief Justice. It does include former IGP. It does include former Chief of Defence Staff. Major General Dankwa or so. So the Honorable Harunai's point is very, very clear, and it speaks to the law. And it is Parliament, so I even, in all humility, I even disagree with Speaker suggesting that it could be a phone call. No, Parliament is a house of record. So if we are to be consulted, we work by way of resolution. So President communicates with the House. President could send a communication to the House that I intend to have a full complement of the Council of State. And by the constitutional provisions, I am mandated in law to consult you. So can you...
But Mama V.
Hold on. Japan, let me finish.
No, Russell, just to help you. If you read the statement itself that was issued, yes, there is a clear exclusion to the effect that the appointment of those categories of persons are subject to the consultation with Parliament. And if you don't mind, just read it. It says, paragraph 2, please. The President, subject to consultation with Parliament. That's the wording of the statement. So putting out the names in the first place does not amount to breaching the consultation provision itself.
Yeah, but Mr. Mensah, isn't this a shift in the argument that you were making? Initially, it was just the 11 without the others. But I'm just making reference.
No. I said that the impression being created out there is that the entirety of the list that has been put out, is to the effect that the President was supposed to have consulted Parliament before he made these appointments. And I'm saying that no, it is only in respect of a category that the parliamentary consultation is required. So I was clear in distinguishing those categories and proceeded to say that I don't see why they ought to make a fuss about this three. But clearly, if you look at the statement, it says that it is subject to consultation with Parliament. And so the argument really is neither here nor there.
Okay, Mr. Tapamako, just end because you are in the middle of...
Yes, but you've allowed him to steal my time.
No, I did not. I asked the question, so I brought him in.
The Honorable Haruna Idrisu is not speaking of the entire list. He's speaking in respect of those that require parliamentary consultation. That has not been done. And it's my brother Ijapa saying that President going ahead to put out the names of these three persons in a statement to the whole world. That Parliament should say that now in consulting Parliament after the fact, Parliament rejects the name. It will create problems. That is why you have to consult before you agree. The agreement must come as a result of consultation. So, by what he has done, he's imposing the names on us.
So, Mr. Dafamako, that's why I asked what's been the usual practice. What is precedent?
The usual practice is that some of these things are done quietly. Especially, now, some of these issues are coming up because of the nature and the circumstances we find ourselves. I don't think Speaker Michael Kwe would have said that, yes, the President didn't consult me, even if that were not the situation. The Speaker back is saying that I have not been consulted, and indeed Parliament has not been formally consulted. So there are lots of things in the Constitution that we gloss over because of prevailing circumstances. But now we are looking at everything critically. The law must be observed to the letter. And my brother in Japan knows that consultation, when you say you should consult, you don't select your names and send them to me. That is not consultation. That is imposition. You are compelling me to approve of them. But we are more than one former Chief Justice.
Mr. Mensah, this is certainly a point that you should appreciate, and you could find yourself on the other side someday.
Look, Mama B, prior approval is not the same as consultation. Let's get the decision clear. What are we talking about?
Mr. Dafamako, I brought Mr. Mensah in.
Only make appointments with the prior approval of Parliament, as in the case of ministerial nominees. The names have been submitted to Parliament accordingly. Is that what is suggested in this provision?
We are not speaking of prior approval. This is consultation.
Absolutely. So why are you saying that you can elect to approve of it or not? You don't have the power to approve or otherwise.
So let me ask you same question, Mr. Mensah. What's been the usual practice?
The usual practice, like you said, that this has never become an issue before. It's always done on the quiet. And so I fail to see really what the fuss is all about.
Otherwise, it usually doesn't come out because we usually would have a speaker. We usually would have a speaker who belongs to the other side or who
their own intent going forward into this 8th Parliament is what is being played out. Otherwise, really.
But Mr. Mensah, if we're going according to what has been prescribed,
I take strong exception to that expression.
Which expression, please?
Expression that our intent is to go into this 8th Parliament is what is playing out. It is not my fault. It is not the fault of the NDC caucus in Parliament. It's not the fault of the Speaker or the Speakership, which consists of both NDC and MPP persons, that the President failed to consult Parliament in nominating the 3 persons. So where there are clear provisions of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of this land, it shouldn't trivialize the issue.
I'm not trivializing anything, but I'm saying that the statement that was issued itself.
You are speaking to intent.
That's not.
So if constitutional provisions are the danger of being breached, we shouldn't speak. No. You and I.
Nobody has said that when constitutional provisions are being breached.
Like you said.
Not speak. But I'm saying to you
an issue, but it is
that if you read the text,
what should be the
no breach
of the consultation?
That's the point.
That's what we should be able to agree on.
Well, I can imagine that we will have a lot of these things happening, but can we just respect the provisions in the Constitution and just...
Yeah, if I have to consult you to do something, do I have to ignore you? No. I can't do that.
Mama V, the text of the statement that was issued from the presidency is clear. The president, subject to consultation with Parliament. What does that mean?
Yes, but subject to consultation of Parliament, you've already put the name
appointing these categories of people to fill that role. What does that mean?
Subject to consultation now?
Why did he say prior consultation? Did he say prior consultation or post consultation?
So consultation implies.
And the president has indicated that these are the people that I'm appointing in consultation with you. What really the fuss?
All right, gentlemen, let's move on and talk about the election petition. And I don't know how we're going to be progressing if every issue will be an issue in Parliament. Then it will be very difficult in the future. But let's talk about the election.
My point exactly.
The election petition. Let's talk about the election petition.
My point exactly.
Well, we're watching you. We're watching you.
When your president dispense the Constitution, we'll point it out to him. When your president dispense the Constitution, we'll let him know.
No, he's not my president. He's the president of the Republic of Ghana.
Well, when the president dispense the Constitution, we'll let him know.
Okay, listen, I think that these are all gaps that we're identifying because obviously, and it's a fact, if we had a speaker appointed by the party in government, these things would not come out. I think we should all agree on that, Mr. Mensah.
Speakers are not appointed by any party.
Oh no, I think it's the expression.
Speakers are nominated. They are nominated by the parties, and the parties.
Absolutely, I'm just saying so for the benefit of some of our viewers who may not understand.
Thank you.
Speakers are elected by members of Parliament.
Yes, sir.
Or by consensus or through a vote. And so
the last one was not by consensus.
Was elected by consensus.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk about the election.
Were you elected in second year by consensus?
No, through a vote. and duly declared with exact figures obtained in the election. In the case of Right Honorable Speaker, that was not what happened.
I'm just quoting. I'm quoting the Speaker himself. He was elected. Okay, let's talk about the election petition hearing.
Not the Speaker alone. The records of Parliament shows. The clerk says so. The Hansard will bear me out.
Are we going to be disagreeing on everything?
By how many votes?
Okay.
2 votes. That's a dog bite. 2 votes.
Let's now turn attention to the election petition hearing. You two are lawyers, so you can help us with some understanding. You've been following the procedures in Parliament. And yesterday there was a motion that was filed, dismissed. We thought we were going to see the EC's witness in the box, but that didn't happen because there was a continuation of the hearing only in chambers, and we didn't know what had happened there. Is there anything, maybe I should pick up from there. Mr. Mesa, is there anything from that in-camera hearing that you can share with us? What happened?
No, I'm not in a position to, of course.
Okay, but here's my thinking. Mr. Chikata may have said something to convince the panel. And I arrived at this because I'm thinking, or I was thinking then, it looked like they were going to continue with the proceedings, but after the in-camera, they just came back and agenda sitting.
Yes, and two things could potentially inform that decision, that they agreed that, well, they were going to agenda sitting and continue the hearing by asking them to close their case, because obviously have not filed any formal witness statement by the time that pleadings closed, or that the court had made some concessions with the agreement of the counsel for the respondents, and had indicated that agenda matter till Friday for a new witness to be called. I frankly don't know.
Look, did they say a new witness will be called on Friday?
Well, they said they had a witness that because of ill health. Of course, that was disclosed in court. Mr. Chikata said something to that effect, that they were intended on calling another witness, that because of some ill health, which they could not disclose in open court, they were asking that the matter be heard in camera, and the court obliged and went in camera. And when they came back, the agenda matter. So we can only speculate, but I'm saying that there can only be two outcomes on Friday. One, that the court agreed for the NDC to call another, Mr. Mahama, the petitioner, to call another witness, or that the matter will continue as is expected to, per the rules, if you ask me, because it is clear from CI 99 that all witness statements that you, or the witness statements of all the witnesses that you intend to call ought to have been filed before the case management process commenced and hearing started, because the element of surprise clearly is prohibited by our rules, and as much as possible, the rules of court, and as much as possible, anything that the witness is intended on saying, particularly with respect to the new rules, because in the past, where we didn't have the witness statement, of course, the witness will come and provide his evidence without you knowing what was in his head. But now we have the witness statement, which everybody ought to comply with. But I guess that we'll await Friday. Friday is only tomorrow. And we'll see what it is that the court will say. But from my own perspective, this entire petition is a complete waste of everybody's time. It won't go anywhere. The evidence, pleadings, and the evidence that has been alluded so far before the court, that every observer, is taking notice of, clearly points to a petition that is misconceived, that has no basis whatsoever in law and in fact. And my expectation is that it's not going to stand.
If you look at the issues that has been set, if the petition had no basis, you don't think the panel would have dismissed it a long time ago?
Not at all, because it's a constitutional matter. And the practice of the courts, and by the courts I mean the Supreme Court, is to, regardless of the legal objections that have been raised, bear in mind that the respondents have raised a preliminary legal objection, the court proceeds to hear the matter in its entirety and provide its ruling, including a ruling on the preliminary legal objection at the time of delivering the judgment. So let nobody be deceived that by reason of the fact that the court has not dealt with the preliminary objection, that then suggests that they are in agreement that the petition has some basis. They just want to listen to both sides.
So why would the court waste its time and listen to both sides and go through all this
the practice of the Supreme Court, that in constitutional matters, and this is not the first time, there are plethora of authorities that confirm the Supreme Court's decision to the effect that when a matter borders on some aspect of the Constitution, then we will hear all parties and then provide a comprehensive ruling. Bear in mind that the decision of the Supreme Court, binds all lower courts as well. And so there may be some questions of law and fact that may come up that would provide some authoritative basis for future adjudication of disputes in this country. So the courts, by practice, is minded not to dispose of matters at the preliminary stage, regardless of the objections that are raised, but takes it together comprehensively in their judgment. And that's exactly what the court indicated at the pre-trial, the case management stage. And of course, you did not hear the respondents oppose, because I'm sure that they themselves had apprised themselves on the practice of the court and knew, even though my expectation was that the Supreme Court, to the extent that they can depart from its practice, masters of their own rules, would have dealt with this matter as expeditiously as possible. Because look, to be candid, Namavi, all the talk regarding issues with Dr. Kwesa White's evidence, regarding Mr. Asibin Kete's evidence, at the cracks of NDC's petition before the court, is that the Electoral Commissioner, in making the declaration, and they suggest that the declaration is what she uttered, not what the facts of the figures are. She used a certain figure, 13,434,574, which, according to them, was the total valid vote figure that the EC chairperson declared. And that if you look at the individual votes that were obtained by all the contestants, which is not in dispute, and you use the 13,434 as a denominator in calculating what percentage each candidate obtained, nobody got 50%. That's it. That's the case before the court. But the fact is that when you aggregate the individual votes of all the contestants, you get 13,161,111. That is the fact. And so what the NDC petition or Mr. Mohammed's petition is suggesting to all of us is that, Mamabi, you and I and Roxanne Dofia-Mako have gone into an election. 100 people voted for the three of us. Roxanne got 60. You got 50. You got 30 and I got 10. Now, 200 or 150 people actually took part in the election. Okay? Out of the 150 who took part in the election, 50 votes were destroyed. Spot. Only 100 was valid. You know you got 60. Roxanne knows he got 30. I know I got 10. Now, the referee, in this case, the Electoral Commissioner, in declaring the vote, says that the total valid votes cast is 150. When you and I know that the total votes cast, in fact, all the contestants know that the total votes cast is indeed and in fact 100. And I go to court the next day and say that, well,
you're justifying the correction or the mistake, right?
There was no correction of any mistake.
Oh, okay.
So the next day, the Electoral Commissioner comes, hold on, and says that, look, Yesterday, when I was announcing the result, I indicated the total valid votes was 150. Is it factual? Per your record, the record that you have. Is it? I'm asking you a question. Is it factual? And so if she comes and says, when all of us know that the total votes that is as a result of the aggregation of the votes of the three of us amounts to 100. But she says 150. And she comes the next day and says that, look, yesterday I said 150, but in fact, it's 100. You say because she said 100, she's changed the result. Has it changed the result?
Mr. Dafamapo, is it
I'm asking you a question, Mama V, please, it's important.
Are you asking me a question?
Has the election commissioner, per this scenario that I've painted, changed the results?
Are you expecting an answer from me?
No, hold on. And I go to court and tell the Supreme Court that at the time of the declaration, the election commissioner mentioned 150 as the valid vote cast. When I know, as a matter of fact, that the total valid vote cast is 100.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mensah. Thank you, Mr. Mensah.
Wait, please.
You are giving all the time to Ejapa. He's repeating the same thing.
150 as basis for calculating the percentage vote.
Mr. Mensah, you've made your points.
Nobody won the election.
You've made your points. We appreciate that. Let me just, throw it to Mr. Dafamapo. Mr. Dafamapo, I'm asking.
The case of the NDC and the petition before the court.
Is it as simple as he's put it?
It's as simple as that. And I'm shocked that Ejapa is going round saying the same thing for over 10 minutes. What is the issue? It is part of the law, or it's a requirement of law that where nobody crosses 50% plus one, there has to be a rerun between the two persons that obtain the highest vote. And that's the law. So for him to suggest that we are in court because of that, as if it doesn't matter, it's neither here nor there. Now he's talking about figures. Is he aware that the Electoral Commission, in their answer to the Supreme Court, in response to His Excellency John Mahama's petition, they have quoted a different figure, different from what they released on the 9th, what they corrected on the 10th of December, and what they actually put up. So which of the figures do we believe from the Electoral Commission? And he says that this is not material, this is not an issue to be dealt with. They can be tickling themselves. And I'm very happy that he says that there are plethora of court cases, Supreme Court decisions, that says that when a case before them is about a constitutional matter, they'll go into the merits and come out with a ruling or a judgment. But they are all over the place saying that they have filed a preliminary legal objection. And what is the government of that preliminary legal objection? It is to the effect that the petition does not disclose any reasonable cause of action. And so, in their legal mind, the court should make a preliminary determination and dismiss the matter. But it's on air saying today that there are lots of Supreme Court decisions that says that cannot be done. So I'm happy that he has put that matter. It's settled. Mama V, what are we talking about? You listen to our witnesses. You listen to our PW1. You listen to our PW2. What happened in court yesterday is something that happens all the time, where matters has to do with medical issues. They are strictly confidential, like I said earlier on in the other submission. So they are not matters that you say in open court.
Yeah, but nobody's raising issues with that.
So the judge or the judges will normally go into chamber and hear you. His point is that because of some peculiar medical conditions, you recall that in our pre-trial checklist, we indicated that we'll call 5 witnesses.
But you filed only 2 witness statements.
Exactly. And so he's making the point that even the third witness that we intended to call, because of some peculiar medical condition, we couldn't even approach the person to gather the witness statement from the person. So depending on how the discussions went in camera, the court agreed and adjourned the matter. And so I will leave it at that. Whatever happens on Friday, we'll discuss that one going forward. So they should stop saying, and I heard him say that it's a complete waste of time. We are in court, cross-examinations have been done. We expect the respondents, and when there will be no re-examination of our witnesses, we expect the respondents to also open their case. And he says that it's a sheer waste of time. They can be tickling themselves and be smiling or laughing. But the court will come to a determination. When that is done, Mama, you and I and himself will be back to discuss the merit or the demerit of the judgment that the court will enter in this matter. And those will be my preliminary view.
Wow. That's all time will allow us on this matter. I was just... Mr. Mesa, I give you a lot of time.
It's interesting that
I give you a lot of time. What do you want to say again on this matter?
My summary of the cracks of their case before the court. Because he agrees with me that that's what the basis of asking the declaration to be declared of the election results, okay, CI 135, to be declared null and void, is the computation based on the denominator. That's it. The denominator, according to the
denominator. That all the 3 or 4 denominators that have been put out so far in official communication.
The 13,434,574 that you use as basis for calculation, which was premised on what the EC chairperson said.
But Mr. Mesa, are you aware the EC is quoting a different figure in their answer before the court?
Which different figure? Look, Mama B, look. The
answer before the court,
okay, yesterday I had the proceedings, and I posted something on Facebook that the total vote cast figure of 13,434,574. They're saying that the EC in their answer quoted 13,433,573. Mama B, do the math. It's 1001, the difference.
But there's still some difference. So you agree that there's still some difference?
I don't have a problem, but I'm saying that.
No. Mr. Mesa, do you agree that there's some difference?
I'm saying that if the allegation is right, then there's a difference. Okay. But then the question of materiality arises.
Okay. So there's a difference. Why are we saying that? Why are we saying that it's a complete waste of everybody's time?
Because that is not what is used in computing the percentages for the candidates at the election.
The electoral commission is valid vote cast. The returning officer is a
admitted during cross-examination.
She doesn't have any figure.
All the aggregate figures of the individual contestants in the election, you do not get the denominator that they are asking the court to use as basis for calculating the percentages.
Gentlemen, tomorrow is just around the corner. Do you, by the way, just before we go, do you foresee an extension in the time, for hearing this case? Because yesterday was, I think, day 4 in the trial. We've got 6 days for that. Tomorrow is Friday. Do you foresee an extension, Mr. Mesa?
No, I don't.
Mr. Dafamakpo?
That is a case that is dead on arrival, Mama B.
Mr. Mesa, thank you for answering my question. Mr. Dafamakpo, do you see an extension of time?
It's a possibility. This is the first time CI 99 is being tested. And so, depending on the circumstances of this matter, the court in its wisdom may extend the hearing date by a week or 2, depending on the constraints they have. So I cannot say definitively that they will not extend it when there's a need for it.
Yes, sir.
They may not.
Okay.
This is the respondents.
Thank you very much.
Are not cast in concrete.
One day to cross-examine the EC,
especially when it's about procedure.
Okay. Thank you.
And he knows. There's something we call enlargement of time. He knows.
Thank you, Mr. Dafamakpo. Thank you, Ejapa Mesa.
Cross-examine the witnesses of the respondents. Only 2 days. You want an extension of 2 weeks. You see, Mama B, when we say
Mr. Mesa, I've ended.
The import of this petition is to engage or dominate the media space for as long as they can.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for the conversation. It's been interesting. I like the perspectives that you both bring onto the discussion, so I'm grateful. Enjoy the rest of the day. So that's our guest on AM Talk, Andrew Ejapamesa is Member of Parliament for 2nd D, and Roxanne Nelson Dafamapo is Member of Parliament for South Dai. Up next, we're talking 2020 road accident leading into 2021. There was a gory one yesterday. Benjamin Akapo is handling that conversation with the police MTTD and the National Road Safety Authority. That's coming up next. Stay with us.
A warm welcome back to you. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. We're talking road safety. Before this, we were talking, all those other activities that we'd like to talk about, the politics and all of that, but we can't do that if we're not alive. And that's why this morning we're digging into road safety matters with Henry Asumani, Senior Manager, Planning and Programs with the National Road Safety Authority. He joins us for a conversation. Of course, we know they are detailed within the framework to ensure regulation and ensure that certain things do work out on our roads. Mr. Asumani, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Good morning.
And we're also going to be taking, a look at some of the statistics from last year with regard to the carnage on our roads and how many people lost their lives. We'll be bringing you that so you can see the true picture on your screens. But Mr. Asumani, you would realize that, I don't know whether you followed this pattern, but it appears we have some good years when it comes to road safety, accidents and all of that, and then we seem to retrogress. In recent times, we've seen that incident where 5 people lost their lives, traveling from Kumasi to Boku. That was a very, sad incident. And only yesterday we saw this other one with 19 people losing their lives, 17 on the spot, 2 in a hospital. And interestingly, the drivers themselves lost their lives in that accident. What do you think is accounting for this uptick in accidents, especially in this first month of the year?
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. Yes, this is some sad news that came in yesterday when we were all just waking up and we heard that there was an accident around the Buipe area where 17 people lost their lives on the spot and then 2 people died. And I sent condolences to the families of those who perished and those who got injured. I wish them well. Our road safety situation has always been that when we see things getting better, then it escalates again. But if you look at the 2020 statistics, where I see reports over 22,500 people have died, which is one of the worst years we have had, you realize that about 40% of these fatalities are people who were using motorcycles. When it comes to road safety and crashes, we have road user groups that we do different targeted campaigns for and targeted enforcement, whatever.
Right.
We have the pedestrian, we have the passenger, we have commercial, we have private drivers, then we have motorcycles. Previously, we used to have a lot of fatalities involving pedestrians, where we used to record about 42% of people dying as pedestrians, people walking by the side of the road. But for about the 10 years down the line, you realize that the pedestrian fatalities have been going down gradually, especially fatalities among school-going children. It's been going down. Passenger has also been going down. Passenger, bus occupants, so when we say we mean bus occupants and people who were in vehicles when the vehicles were involved in accident. It's also been going down, although we've been hearing news of, like yesterday, 19 people dying. If you collate the statistics at the end of the year, you realize that the fatalities involving passengers have been going down.
So for passengers and pedestrians, we're looking at, some sort of a downward spiral. But when it comes to motorcycles, that's where the issue is.
That's where the issue, because if you let's go back to about 2010. In 2010, motorcycles were about the 4th contributor to fatalities. When we say 4th contributor to fatalities, when we have our fatalities, we look at the numbers. And when you look at the numbers, you grade them, let's say pedestrian being the highest, passengers following, and that's how we grade. In 2010, fatalities were about the fourth. 2020 statistics has shown that motorcycles is now first because they have contributed about 40% of road traffic fatalities. If you look at pedestrians, where we used to have an issue, they have, in 2020, it's about 30%, where they have, if you want absolute numbers, you realize that out of the 2,589 pedestrians involved were about 720. But motorcycle fatalities was about 1,056, which is about 40%.
Out of the 2,589?
Yes, yes.
And when you do the mathematics, you're looking at upwards of 40%, about 40.78%.
Yes. So you realize that in 2020, motorcycles has become the first contributor when it comes to fatalities on our roads. These are provisional statistics. Later when we get the result, but most of the time the disparity is not that much. So you realize that yes, motorcycles is now number one when it comes to contributor to fatal crashes. So I would say in the fight against road traffic crashes in Ghana, we are losing the war against motorcycles. And that is where we need to look at. We need to tackle that because if, as I said, all the other parameters are coming down, that is the one that has shot up.
Okay.
So you realize that if we've been able to tackle motorcycles, then overall we would have been seeing a downward trend.
So looking at what you just made mention of, it's apparent over the years, I mean, since 2010, the statistics you've been given, and even before that, the motorcycles are accounting for a lot of the carnage we find on our roads. But I also know that you have an arrest and train policy that you intend rolling out as an authority. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, this is something that we want to do in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service, where we intend to arrest motorcyclists who, let's say you're not wearing your helmet, you don't have the valid documents to ride on the road, you cross red lights and those things. Now, we think that sometimes the thought is there that maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. We've been tackling drivers a lot, where we've been doing a lot of education and training for drivers. And then as I said, we've seen the downward trend. So we think that it is time to use that approach on the motorcyclists, where now when you're apprehended, it's not like we apprehend you and send you to court for you to be fined and then you go scot-free. We think that when you're apprehended, some sort of training or education in road safety, in riding, could do the trick. And apart from you gaining knowledge, sometimes wasting someone's time, he will think about it, he might not do it again. So we think this is a policy that we want to bring out, and I'm sure this year you will see it rolled out because it's a concept that we've come up with. Very soon we'll roll it out. And
this rather than punitive measures, because technically we don't have regulation for these Okada riders or people who ride on a commercial basis when it comes to motorbikes. You see, let's try to move from that. We see motorcyclists riders. We don't see commercial and private. We see and when I'm talking, I'm relating to motorcyclist riders, people who ride motorcyclists. I haven't categorized them into private or commercial. So let's move away from that. And we are looking at the regulations binding people who ride motorcycles. You should wear helmet. You should have valid documentation. You should have a riding license. You should, if you will be riding in the night, you should have reflective clothing. You shouldn't cross red lights. You are like a vehicle. On roads that there are no areas for motorcycles, like in Accra here, if you look at the Achimota-Amasaman Road, you realize that there's a lane for motorcycles. In areas where you don't have such lanes, you are just like a vehicle. You ride in the vehicle. You don't ride on the pedestrian walkway. So if you find you riding on the pedestrian walkway, that is one of the things I'm talking about. So those are their disregard for road traffic regulations. So that's what we intend to roll out. But Mr. Sumening, let's be fair here. The reason I'm bringing this up is that if you want to segregate out of the 1,056, out of the 2,500 plus, if you want to segregate how many of them were caused by commercial motorcycle activities, I'm sure that would account for quite a number of these incidents we're seeing, which is why I feel there should be some focus from, I know you work together with the media, the fire service, the DVLA, among other groups, to focus on those who engage in commercial activities as well, because there is a problem, and we see that problem, don't we?
Let's say we want to focus on the commercial riders, as you put it, which I am saying...
Without ignoring...
Yes, I'm saying that let's say we want to focus on them. You see, what we are looking at is, even if you're a commercial rider, we expect you to follow the traffic regulations. That's all. You see, being a commercial rider and a private rider, it's not different. You should just follow you should wear a helmet. You should ensure your pillion rider is wearing a helmet. The maximum people on the motorcycle, as the law prescribes, is 2. Even in the restrictions that because of the pandemic, it is now 1. So those are the things we expect you to follow. Whether you are a commercial rider or a private rider, as I said, the law does not recognize any commercial motorcyclists who carry passengers for fare. The law does not recognize that. So our data also do not segregate between Okada and other riders. What the law recognizes is for dispatch, for delivery. So we have riders who do delivery than other riders. The law does not give room for anybody to carry passenger for fare-paying passenger. So for now, our statistics do not segregate in that order. But that's what I'm trying to explain is that if we're able to tackle that all riders obey road traffic regulations, all riders comply with road traffic regulations, yes, then we'll be heading somewhere. Even if you're a commercial rider and then you carry for fare, which is illegal, but you obey the road traffic regulations, it means that you would avoid being involved in crashes.
Right. This training, program that you're hoping to enforce when it comes to motorcycle riders, what are the timelines? What is the plan? Are you hoping maybe in the first quarter of this year or after?
As I said, it's just a concept that has come up. We'll be rolling it out and we'll show the rollout plan. Very soon we'll share the rollout plan with the media.
All right, let's talk about fatigue driving or sleep driving. We've seen that come to the fore in recent times. The Nasia Bridge incident, now the Buipe Tamale incident that we heard of only yesterday. The first one, there was the accusation that the driver was actually sleeping. He denied it. In yesterday's incident, we may not have the benefit of the doubt because both of them have lost their lives. How are you addressing this issue?
But yes, before I go to that, preliminary investigation has shown that yes, the driver was sleeping because some of the passengers confirmed that he was sleeping. And then he drifted off his lane. He wasn't overtaking. It was just these 2 buses on the road at that time. So he drifted, the one coming from Kumasi, drifted off his lane into the other lane, and that's where the accident happened. You see, when we talk about fatigue driving, people feel that it is something that might not happen. And I always even try to even move away from the commercial drivers because, yes, we know fatigue driving, they get tired. We don't see ourselves in it. So I bring it to the corporate world where you come to work 8 to 5. Then after 5, you need to go back home. You are driving back home. You see, you are already tired because you've been working the whole day. Before you step out, sometimes it's very refreshing to just walk around a little or just have a chit chat before you go. It refreshes you. Now let's center on yesterday what happened. The preliminary report suggests that the accident happened around midnight, just after midnight. The human body if you go into biology, you have a biological clock in you that makes you feel sleepy at night, and that is why we sleep at night. When it's dark, you sleep. So that one will make you feel sleepy around that time. One of the messages when it comes to fatigue driving that we spread across is that if you have to travel during the night, make sure you've had enough sleep during the day. That's the first thing. Now let's look at the second thing. The second thing is from Kumasi. The accident happened around Buipe, just after Buipe. If you look at the distance between Kumasi and Buipe, it's about 277 kilometers, which means that you'll be driving for about 5 hours before you get there. The law stipulates that after every 4 hours, you need to break the drive. Break the drive means that you need to stop and then relax. Sometimes when we say relax, it doesn't mean just relaxing your vehicle. You need to leave that environment to refreshing yourself. So sometimes you need to get down. Even a walk about the vehicle is enough. So the law states that you need to break the drive for 30 minutes before you continue.
And as drivers, we know that even if you're driving and you feel that fatigue, even what 5 minutes of just a pause can do for you is amazing sometimes.
Yeah, so I was just talking about the law. I was coming to advice from the National Road Safety Authority, where we say that break the drive every 2 hours. So now let's say, assuming this driver who was going to Garu from Kumasi, upon reaching Buipe, as per the law, should have rested for 30 minutes. And sometimes I tell you that if he had rested, done that 30 minutes, he wouldn't have slept off at Buipe. The authority also advises that every 2 hours, break the drive for 15 minutes. So it means that, let's say, when you get to Techiman, you break the drive. When you get to after Kintampo, somewhere between Kintampo and Buipe, you break the drive. Then you realize that you still feel refreshed. And the law also says after 8 hours of driving, you should stop. 8 hours of driving within a 24-hour period, you should stop driving. If we look at this and then obey it, we realize that fatigue driving won't be something as predominant as it is now.
So that brings me back to this point we always get to. I just want to hit the nail on the head. Ghana is said to be a country of very good laws, but very little implementation. So we have a very good law in that respect.
Yeah.
They must pause. How are we implementing it? These are two major buses, Yutong buses, both of them carrying about 50 persons. And now look at the numbers that have lost their lives. So how are we implementing what we have in our law books? Because if we are not enforcing them at these stations where people are boarding, then what exactly are we doing?
There has been a vacuum when it comes to road transportation in Ghana. And the vacuum has been that there is no agency that is in charge to regulate the activities of road transport, of commercial road transport in Ghana. If you go to the maritime, we have the Maritime Authority. If you go to air transport, we have the Civil Aviation Authority. So in the road transport sector, that has been lacking. But a law was passed in 2019, that is the National Road Safety Authority Act 993, which gives the mandate to the authority to regulate road transportation in Ghana. The law came in 2019, and before the law can be operationalized, the LI should be in place. The draft LI is ready, and very soon it will be going through the process, the procedures for it to be passed. And when it is passed, then now we would have a regulatory body when it comes into the road transport sector. And that, until that regulatory body is ready, until the LIs are ready, it will be difficult to enforce such laws. Now, when it is ready, one of the things that we'll be looking at is this rest period for drivers. 2 drivers for long journeys. Let's say Accra to Tamale, you can't have one driver driving from Accra to Tamale. So those are some of the things that will come into play. The use of logbooks, which is in our law, the use of logbooks. So all these will come into play. And I know very soon this LI would come to fore. And as soon as the LI comes to fore, then we would be rolling. But we are not just sitting idle whilst waiting for the LI, keeping our fingers crossed, waiting for the LI. What we are doing is that we are getting the database of all commercial transport operators and the drivers. So when we are able to get this database, by the time the law comes through, we would have made the headway of regulating them. And very soon, when we're able to get through all these, we will be able to enforce such laws as you're talking about.
Okay. Now that we're talking about the law, I know there are quite a number of LIs that's based on your act, the National Road Safety Authority Act you're trying to bring out. One of them has to do with ensuring that other bodies within your space, like the MTTD, like the DVLA, actually, do what they ought to, and that if in certain instances they are not doing what is expected, you can actually push them to do the right thing. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, one of the things that we have also been mandated to do is to ensure institutional compliance when it comes to the road safety space. It means that if you are coming into the road safety space, you need to have been guided by some standards. So let's say if you are supposed to do anything, okay, you use DVLA as an example. So let's say DVLA is supposed to bring out qualified drivers. They have standards that they use when it comes to that. So what we would be doing is that we need to ensure that those standards are being met. That's all. So we can't lord over them, but the standards that they are using, we need to just ensure that those standards are being adhered to.
Can you promise that this will not be another white elephant? Because sometimes, this push and pull and institutional, I wouldn't say sovereignty, but sometimes appearing to be veering into someone's space. Is the National Road Safety Authority going to be able to push these other institutions when there is need for that?
I think where I sit, I see the road crashes data that we have, the road crash incidents that we experience, what we see on the road. I see it as a pandemic. And we see
it as a pandemic?
Yes, because people are dying. I see it as a pandemic. And that is how most stakeholders within the road safety space see it. So when and you know how you react to pandemics. So I'm promising you that this won't be a white elephant. It will be something that we are going to do to the core, and our stakeholders are with us. The road agencies are with us, TVL is with us, MTTD is with us. And we are all going to fight this carnage on the roads to the core. And we would ensure that we are able to get hold of this canker called road traffic crashes and bring it down.
Indeed, a pandemic, if you put side by side how many lives we've lost, being very sensitive to COVID in just this month, and you put that side by side with the number of lives we've lost in even these two road accidents, vehicular accidents, you would get, the picture and the message as well.
Yes.
But there's something else that I briefly want you to touch on before we wrap up. There's this organizational bit as well that you are thinking of tackling with another ally when it comes to organizations like SNIT, GAPUHA, big organizations with large fleets, to ensure that they are complying when it comes to their drivers and all of that. I'd like to dig into that.
When you come into the road transport industry, there's something called fleet management. And fleet management means that you have a lot of fleets of vehicles. How are you managing them? So that's basically it. So we would ensure, if you are bringing that large fleet into the space, onto our roads, we need to know how you are managing that fleet. That's it. They are all contained in the one LI, not different LIs. It's just one LI that they are all contained in.
How much of a problem is it when it comes to maintenance issues resulting in some of the accidents we're seeing? From the NRSA's standpoint, what are you seeing? What's the picture?
You see, let's say if there's an accident and then the resultant is that there was a brake failure, it becomes a maintenance issue because the brakes do not just go off. When brakes are maintained properly, they do not fail. I have a philosophy which I say that the brakes never fail you. You failed the brakes because even before it would go off, it would have prompted you. So if you had checked it, you wouldn't have had that brake failure. So that's just one example that I can give for now. So if you maintain your vehicle well, you would not have such things as brake failures. You would not have such things as breaking down vehicle on the roads. So
the weather is changing.
Yes, yes.
We expect the Harmattan or something of the sort coming through. What should drivers be looking out for in a period like this?
Yeah, that's true. I think the weather, it's now on and off. Sometimes Harmattan comes, it doesn't come. But when we are going into Harmattan like that, it's very foggy, especially early in the morning. So you need to take extra precautions because visibility becomes poor. We say there's poor visibility when it's raining, there's poor visibility when it's foggy. So we need to take extra precautions and make sure that we drive according to our environment. I always say that drive to what you can see. And because you cannot see much, you should be going as slow as possible. And then you make sure that your lights are on for oncoming vehicles to see that there's a vehicle coming. And be extra cautious. Don't let anything distract you. Do not pick your phone while driving. Do not fidget with the radio sets while driving in such conditions.
Finally, Mr. Asumani, as we wrap up, I just want you to let us look at the data very briefly. I'm seeing Accra, I'm seeing Tema, reflecting when it comes to the number of accidents, when it comes to fatalities and all of that. Just break it down for us in about a minute. What is the picture and what should we be doing in different parts of the country based on what the data says to forestall further accidents?
Okay. Statistics, road traffic data has shown that most of the times, the most accidents happen in the Greater Accra region. But we record a lot of fatalities in Eastern and then Ashanti regions. And about 70 to 80% of crashes, of fatalities, are from the Greater Accra, Eastern, Ashanti, Central, and Western regions. So just these few regions account for about 70% of our fatalities that we experience on our roads. And it shows because you realize that there's a lot of activities going on down south than up north. So that is why we have such data. So the southern regions contribute a lot more to the fatalities than the northern.
And that reflects the picture from last year?
Yes, but I said this is provisional, so you are not able to get those. But when the research data comes out, then we will get such data. But if you look at the trend from all those years up to 2019, you realize that yes, that's how it is.
Mr. Asumaning, we're grateful for your time, and of course we're praying that all those hurdles you're facing, and of course even the allies that based on your act you're hoping to get into force, will actually happen, and that we'll see much better on our roads.
Thank you.
Henry Asumaning is Senior Manager Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority, and he joined us this morning for this discussion. Remember to drive safe and stay alive. We're going to take a bit of a break. When we return, we come your way with Showbiz. Do stay with us.
Good morning, you're welcome to the Showbiz segment right here on the AM show. Now, some weeks ago, musician Kwamina MP and his dad, Bongo, were involved in an accident on the Akosombo Road. While the artist survived, his father, on the other hand, died. Now, a few days later, he released an EP to pay tribute to his dad, which features Kofi Mole and Twitch Forever. Now, in a video posted to his social media yesterday, Kwamina MP narrates how nice his father was and how he loves people. He also said that his father is a very caring person who likes helping him without judging him or others. There's more.
So first of all, Bongo is a very nice person. You should have met him. His energy, he loves people, he likes to help, he doesn't judge. I did a lot of wrong things, but Bongo would never judge me in any way. Bongo would just call me and talk to me and then ask me if what I'm doing is right for me, and then I should make sure I'm not going to hurt anybody, or I should just be sure that I'm doing the right thing. I remember the first time I stole my mom's money. My dad caught me, and then he asked me to open my palm. I opened my hands, and then the money was right there. Then instead of punishing me, he cried. He made me understand that it wasn't a good thing. Stealing wasn't a good thing, so he cried, and then I felt really bad for making him cry. But at a tender age. So, Bongo.
Away from that, Ghanaian gospel musician Sonny Badu has been seen in a viral video singing along to Ochame Kwame's new song, Yeko. Now, the gospel artist in this video was seen trying to learn the lyrics of the song. This comes weeks after gospel musicians were being criticized for collaborating with secular artists. It seems Sonny Badu sees nothing wrong with it in this video. Watch.
I like this song. I love this song. So I'm Yankee free crutia. Na yehu aji efiemu. Inka yechisika. Anka yeche mienu. Se yamboga mpoa. Yen na ye apemu. Now let me go to the next one. Okay. Fise yenyame fise yenyame na yo yebo ga my you need that so inside a dear beside. Listen, bro, this song is a big song, man. I love it. I'm trying to. In your window, you need that so inside you. Listen, I love this song, man. You're cool. Wait. You're cool.
Yes. I don't even know what the big deal is. So his gospel artist, he cannot like another piece of music.
Yeah, that's what some people are saying. Yeah.
I think it's a restriction we put on ourselves, right? I know people who say they don't listen to any secular music, it's all gospel. I think variety is the spice of life.
I don't know why Celestine Donko came under, a lot of criticisms when she featured Akwaboah and then Efia on her song.
I also remember this gospel artist. She featured Asem.
Lady Prempe.
Lady Prempe.
Yes. I don't
Dear Timmy, that song. I mean, she got a lot of flack for that. And in fact, if you look critically, since that time, her music just
she's out with, is it Hallelujah or something like that? But I don't see it making it the buzz.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, except for those billboards that you spot. But so we can be such hypocritical people sometimes. Yeah. I like it.